Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I am your host for tonight and every other night, the Articulate Thinker, hopefully, here to bring you art articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station. So be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. A gentle ring. Yeah, this is my first show on this channel, but I'm not new to the art of thinking articulately, hopefully. I mean, I had this show up on another channel, which has now become Articulate Thinker News Clips. And yes, this is Articulate Thinker Podcast, and I also have a third channel under my Articulate Thinker branding, which is called Articulate Thinker Monologues. So those are my three Articulate Thinker channels. Sorry if I keep saying that. It's not to make myself sound smarter. Lord knows I couldn't get any dumber. It's more of an aspiration than anything, if you know what I mean. But yes. Hey, welcome. Welcome to my humble show. As I already said, I don't want to spend too much time on this intro. If you want to know more about my other channels, well, there is a link to my Linktree down in the description box below. Everything is there. But yeah, what is here? Well, this. A headline about Vivek Ramaswamy. Why not start this off with a bang? Going in with a bang instead of going out with a bang. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy has been doing his dang thing. He has been making his rounds. And this isn't going to be all that profound. But I just found this headline earlier. I think I saw something about this on Twitter, or shall I say X, first and foremost. But I thought, why not talk about it? Share a few thoughts about it. Read through it, react to it. I do have a couple of clips, a bit of additional information about the man, who I am somewhat a fan of. But every once in a while, I see things about him that make me wonder, is he authentic? And my apologies if I continue to look at the wrong camera. I have 3 different ones. And I keep forgetting which one I'm supposed to be looking into. Yeah, let's get into this. Vivek Ramaswamy calls Juneteenth useless 2 months after posting a video celebrating it. So, is this headline from NBC News accurate? We'll figure it out for ourselves. Like I said, though, he has been making the rounds. Props to him. A young, up-and-coming superstar in politics, if there's such a thing as a superstar in politics. But what do you think about him? Do you think he is presidential material? Or is he just a wannabe revolutionary? Yeah. Or maybe he is so young, in fact, that he will just have to wait for a later day in order to truly shine. It's not as though he is leading the pack right now. But he's not exactly in the back either. So he could continue making moves. Things like this might come back to bite him, but we'll see if there's actually something here. If there's actually a here. You know. Alright, I'm not going to play this clip right here. Here. I'll pull it up on a separate YouTube tab, but first let me read the rest of this caption here under the headline. The GOP presidential candidate also said it was redundant and that it overlapped with other holidays like Martin Luther King Jr. Day and President's Day. So if you're wondering what exactly Juneteenth Day is, because you've never heard of it, as most of us hadn't until a couple of years ago, well, here's some basic information on Wikipedia. Go figure. Juneteenth. And I highlighted a couple of portions here. Not the focus of the show, really. But in case you don't know, here are some basics. Juneteenth, officially Juneteenth National Independence Day, is a federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Alright, so it is celebrated on the anniversary of June 18, 1865. Make that June 19. Get my figure eights mixed up. June 19, which is, yeah, that's it. 1865, when in the wake of the American Civil War, Major General Gordon Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas. Originating in Galveston, Juneteenth has since been observed annually in various parts of the United States, often broadly celebrating African American culture. For all you culture vultures out there. So it's not in celebration or commemoration of the Emancipation Proclamation directly. It's just that, we live in a big country, especially back in the day when there was less technology and it took a little bit longer for word to get around. Well, in some places, slavery ended later on than other places. So, nail in that coffin there. What do you think about Emancipation Proclamation? Wait. Oh, wait a second. This isn't necessarily about that. It's, what is it? Virtue signaling? Is that what this is? Juneteenth, National Independence Day. Some people will say we should do away with Juneteenth altogether because it was just virtue signaling in the first place. What do you think about all this? I'm sure we can agree on the Emancipation Proclamation itself, but as for something that has been intended in one way or another to celebrate or commemorate any other particular date having to do with the ending of slavery, the abolishment of slavery. What do you think about that? If we had a holiday for everything, would we have any days which were not holidays? Where do we draw the line? I particularly don't care. I don't particularly care whether or not people celebrate Juneteenth. Again, it's relatively new. So sometimes traditional-minded people have a hard time getting used to new things. But I take all things into consideration and say, hey, aside from the fact that, yes, it did seem to be a little bit of a pandering effort by the Biden administration, for example, I mean, I'm not going to push back too hard against something that is celebrating the end of something as terrible as slavery. So, it's just kind of up in the air for me. The day was recognized as a federal holiday in 2021 when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. Juneteenth became the first new federal holiday since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was adopted in 1983. So obviously this followed the whole George Floyd situation, meaning a lot of the nation was riled up. The nation was riled up a lot, and people wanted to stay on top of that. So things like this happen. Then we've also had this debate over the anti-lynching act, although not much of a debate because that's one of those things you don't want to push back too hard against. But at the same time, it does seem to be a little bit of a virtue signal, a little bit of pandering, especially in this day and age when people aren't exactly getting lynched, except for maybe Jussie Smollett. Oh, wait a second. That was a hoax because he wanted to be a victim. Yeah. It's like, okay, somebody got murdered, but was it racial? Because if it was, then it's extra bad. Huh. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to lynching, it's already a crime, but they were like, let's make it a federal hate crime as well. So it's like a murder, but it's instead like a double murder. It's like a murder, like an extra evil murder. I don't know. It just seemed kind of awkward. Like, should we have different tiers of murder? I mean, we kind of do already. First degree, third degree, everything in between and outside of. But I'm just saying, there are all kinds of different hate crimes. People hate each other for all kinds of different reasons. but it seems like certain ones attract attention, certain ones are profitable for institutions, organizations, politicians, even. And when it comes to campaigning, well, someone always wants someone else to pander to. And they are going to find someone to pander to. But enough about the history of Juneteenth. Like I said, I don't really care whether people celebrate it or not. I don't remember when most holidays are as is. So no sweat off my brow either way. But yeah. You can let me know what you think down in the comments below. Here is this clip. Vivek Ramaswamy calls Juneteenth a useless holiday, suggests canceling. Then I'll pull that article back up and we can see if he was a hypocrite.
Do you think Juneteenth is a useless holiday?
I basically do. Single day voting on election day. We will make election day a holiday in the United States of America, so there's no complaints about it. Cancel Juneteenth or one of the other useless ones we made up. Okay? We can't have like everything be a holiday, but we'll cancel one of the other ones and make election day a holiday.
So yeah, I said we'll cancel Juneteenth or one of the other useless holidays we made up. Not sure which all holidays he is referring to, but he says get rid of some of those, make election day a holiday. He has some other interesting views about elections, about the right to vote, for example. He wants people to either be of a certain age or pass a civics test or serve either in the military or in the community or something like that. I don't know if that would come to fruition. I don't know if he's just talking the talk without having to walk the walk. Since he is such a revolutionary type, he talks a lot. And most of what he says, I agree with. Who knows if he could actually pull it off? And then there's some stuff that he couldn't do through executive order. It would have to be something that would have to go through Congress. And he's a very intelligent guy, especially for his age and lack of history in politics. Speaking of history and politics and government, this is a smart guy. Yeah, so that's one thing I appreciate about him. Even when there are things about him that are questionable, he does take questions on it from like anyone. Maybe that's just because he wants to soak up as much of the sun as possible. Maybe he's actually authentic, though, and he is willing to change his mind on things. He's willing to learn from his mistakes, if he has made any. And if he has been a hypocrite, well, I would hope that someone will ask him about it in the very near future. And one of the many occasions in which he is taking questions.
Paper ballots and government-issued voter ID that matches the voter file. That is what we will do.
Going back to your election security plan, you said you wanted to have a holiday. You said maybe cancel Juneteenth or one of those other useless holidays. Do you think Juneteenth is a useless holiday?
I basically do. Yeah.
Do you think Memorial Day, Veterans Day are useless holidays?
I don't, because I stand with the presumption of time-tested traditions. Like I said, religion is, I call these things cults. I won't dignify them as religious because religions have withstood the test of time. And so I think that if we made a national commemorative holiday for everything that's important and happened in our history, we'd have no working days left. But I think the spirit of Juneteenth, we already channel into other holidays.
All right, so he almost seems to be equating the implementation of Juneteenth with a cult-like mentality or something like that. But I'm not sure. Those are strong words. He says useless multiple times. Useless holiday. That's a pretty strong stance.
Like Martin Luther King Day, like President's Day. I think we can commemorate the spirit of that holiday separately. So I think that we shouldn't have redundant holidays that celebrate overlapping purposes. It should have a distinct purpose. And I think, let's be honest, the reason for making that a holiday was under political duress. It was a political hostage situation on the back of the death of George Floyd. And I think that should not be how we create holidays. We should not create holidays with a cultural gun to our head. And that's what happened with Juneteenth.
All right. So, yes, NBC News. Don't get it confused. Back to the article. And it will reveal to us what he said not too long ago. 2 months ago, in fact. About Juneteenth. He was much more optimistic about it then, but maybe that's because it was happening and he just wanted to put a positive spin on it. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so Vivek Ramaswamy, and if I've been saying Vivek, it's actually Vivek, but I don't pronounce it right most of the times. Vivek Ramaswamy suggested canceling Juneteenth, calling it a useless holiday in a conversation with Iowa voters Saturday. Less than 2 months ago, however, he posted a video on social media celebrating the day, breaking down his plan Saturday to institute a national voting holiday. Ramaswamy, a GOP presidential candidate, proposed making space for the new holiday by canceling an old one. All right. All right. I think I lost my place for a second, but I'm back. Maybe I just lost my mind. Gotta find that. Cancel Juneteenth or one of the other useless ones we made up. Ramaswamy told an applauding crowd gathered at a welding company there. I mean, we made up all the holidays. So there's that. Not sure how he's distinguishing between those which we made up and those which we didn't make up. Asked by NBC News to clarify whether he thought Juneteenth was a useless holiday, Ramaswamy said, "I basically do." So basically, it's a little bit more watered down there. Instead of outright useless, he's like, basically useless. Less than 2 months ago, on Juneteenth itself, he spoke differently about the celebration. And again, I have this pulled up elsewhere on his Twitter account, so I'll go there. I'll go here. And here you go. Vivek Ramaswamy's Twitter account /X account. His caption reads, "Juneteenth is a new holiday, so we will still have a chance. We still have a chance to define what it means to us. It needn't be about grievance or self-flogging. Let it be about a celebration of the American dream itself." So that's, like I said, a bit of a positive spin there, rather than falling into a culture of grievance and self-flogging, or, on the other hand, or at least on the hand of the perpetually victimized. You know, just bear with me and I'll play the rest of this. Again, losing my mind.
We live in a beautiful country. America is blessed with natural beauty in every sense. But the thing that makes our country beautiful actually isn't even the scenery. It's the vision of what this place can be. The place where no matter who you are, or where your parents came from, or what your skin color is, that you still get ahead in this country based on your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication. That's the American dream that I lived. It's the American dream we want to give to the next generation. That's what we celebrate on Juneteenth. We don't just look back and flog ourselves. That's beside the point. What we celebrate is how far we've come. And as a first-generation American myself, you better believe I'm proud of it. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Take it easy and we'll talk soon.
All right, so he's wishing everybody a happy Juneteenth. He doesn't seem overly enthusiastic about it. At least that's not the vibe I'm getting, but still, he definitely wasn't calling it a useless holiday. I agree with everything he said there about self-grievance and self-flogging. Well, not self-grievance. Grievance and self-logging. I think I'm about to fall asleep over here. But yeah, what do you think? You think he's a hypocrite? Or is he hip with it? See what the rest of this article has to offer. We don't just look back and flog ourselves, Ramaswamy said in the video June 19, which was posted to his account on X, the social media platform previously known as Twitter. What we celebrate is how far we've come. And as a first-generation American myself, you better believe I'm proud of it. Happy Juneteenth, everybody, he said. When NBC News asked Ramaswamy on Saturday whether he believed Veterans Day or Memorial Day was also useless holidays, he said he didn't. I stand with the presumption of time-tested traditions, he said. Well, traditions aren't always good traditions just because they're traditional. Slavery was once a tradition, and that was a very seditious tradition. While Juneteenth became a federal holiday only in 2021, it has been observed since 1866. I could have specified that when I was reading through the Wikipedia page earlier. Some people have celebrated it for years and years and years, but it's just that it became officially recognized nationally just a couple of years ago, obviously. In 2004, President George W. Bush issued a statement commemorating the holiday. On Saturday, Ramaswamy called the Juneteenth holiday redundant, saying it overlapped with other holidays like Martin Luther King Jr. Day and President's Day. Some people say it should be celebrated or commemorated more locally, since it was rooted down in the south of Texas. But I don't know. Obviously, it's a national holiday now. And I'm not so sure I would agree that it should be erased or eradicated at this point. Sure, let's not make any more new holidays unless there's a really good reason for it. And I guess since there was a good reason essentially for this holiday, what am I really saying here? I mean, we could find a good reason to have a holiday any day, pretty much. So let's just be a little bit less abundant with our holidays. But yeah, I think Election Day should be a holiday. It would clear up a lot of issues. Yet Juneteenth celebrates something completely different. As the National Museum of African American History and Culture notes, Juneteenth celebrates the anniversary of when Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, and announced 250,000 black people had been freed by executive decree. The reason for making it a holiday was under political duress. It was a political hostage situation on the back of the death of George Floyd, Ramaswamy said. Right. And I agree with that for the most part. A lot of politicians were licking their chops over the death of a black man. Sad to say. They were like, how can we use this to our advantage? Opportunistic, in other words. One of his competitors, former Representative William Hurd of Texas, who is biracial, criticized Ramaswamy for saying he hopes to cancel a holiday that celebrates equality and freedom. His gimmicks and shtick aren't serious, Hurd said, or Hurd. On Juneteenth, 2 months ago, the NAACP issued a statement saying, "Today we celebrate our emancipation while also acknowledging that we are still fighting for true freedom." I mean, the world is still full of slaves. I've heard often that there are more slaves today than there were back then. It's just that they're not here, or at least not in the way that they used to be. We still have some forms of sex, slavery, and trafficking in this country, but for the most part, it's elsewhere in the world, and there is still a lot of it. As for whether or not there is more than there used to be, I don't know. There are more people than there used to be, so there's that. That's the end of that article. NBC News. You heard it here first. Probably not. It's not breaking or anything like that, but I'm trying my best to break it down for you before my brain, which is lost, falls asleep, and then my body, which is currently separate from my brain, feels the effect. Don't listen to me, but also please do listen to me. Like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride while you're at it. All right, so here's something, one of the other examples of him being a bit inconsistent, if you will. DC Drano tweeted this out a little while back. Vivek Ramaswamy, he had said something back in 2020 about wearing masks. He equated it to personal responsibility. He said wearing a mask equals personal responsibility. It's puzzling when conservatives oppose it. But before deriding them, remember this. CDC and WHO, World Health Organization, discouraged wearing masks in March, a noble lie to save masks for healthcare workers. Institutional lying erodes public trust in science. So the takeaway from that is that he was very pro wearing masks at the time, which is fine. I think people can be pro whatever they want to be pro. I guess it's more problematic when they turn out to be inconsistent. But people can change. I believe I have heard him speak to this a bit, and it's whatever. It's whatever. He wasn't exactly mandating anyone. He says that he was opposed to mandates from the beginning. We don't really have a history of him calling for mandates at any point in time. But these are the types of things that people get hung up on. Maybe there's a slightly higher bar set for him, whether it's because of how he conducts himself, how he seems almost too good to be true in a way. Also, he's the new guy, so sometimes when there's a new guy, people are like, who is this new guy? And they start digging through his history, and they dig up things that they're like having a wow effect over, even though everybody else who isn't a new guy could have way more inconsistency in their own background, way more hypocrisy in their own background. It's just that people have gotten used to it, so the bar is a little bit less high for them. But he has surged in the polls for the most part. I think some of that will fade as time goes by. I mean, he has a lot of people who like Trump who also like him because he doesn't really condemn Trump that harshly. But then they kind of run into a little bit of conflict because they're supposed to support Trump and not somebody else who isn't Trump. So I would imagine people might turn on him like they have Ron DeSantis at some point. But then again, other people are turning away from Trump. I think Trump has a louder base right now, not a larger base. He is losing people to Ron DeSantis, even though Ron DeSantis has had his ups and downs. Same could be true for Vivek Ramaswamy. They'll have to fight it out in the end. We don't even know if Donald Trump is going to be a free man at the time of the election. So we'll see what happens. I would love to hear all of them debate each other on a debate stage. See them, hear them challenge each other over these issues. All right, so DC Drano said in his caption here is Vivek supporting masks and being upset at conservatives that oppose them. If you look back more than 6 months into this guy's past, you'll see he's a soft, mushy clown who learned to say a bunch of buzzwords conservatives love in 2023. Well, we didn't really hear many of his political opinions until he started running for president. But is there that much to call him out on? I don't know. Bunch of buzzwords. That's well said oftentimes when it comes to politicians or those claiming to be different from all the rest of the politicians. Those who claim to be outsiders and therefore, the revolutionaries. That's kind of how Trump won his election, by talking about how he was an outsider. So maybe Vivek Ramaswamy is just stealing that. Maybe he's grifting off of Trump. Taking the I'm an outsider, I'm here to save the day approach. But yeah, linked here is the original tweet from Vivek Ramaswamy. DC Drano added some more information below. I don't really care to go down that rabbit hole. I disagree with a lot of things that DC Drano has to say anyways. But yeah, I just wanted to pull this up and give you something to take a gander at. Here's something else from the last few days that I meant to record a separate show about. It didn't happen, so I'll just throw it in here. Ramaswamy demands Tennessee Governor FBI release Nashville school shooters manifesto. Speak the truth. That's something he repeats over and over. Speak the truth. We can handle the truth. I mean, I like his message a lot. I'm not trying to mock it. If you listen to him enough, which I have, it gets a bit repetitive. But he still surprises me sometimes because of how intelligent he is. I mean, if he's a phony, he's put in the work. Ramaswamy's comments come amid his push for a White House in crowded GOP field. So I meant to mention this because, yeah, he went to Nashville, Tennessee, and held an event with Candace Owens, actually. Candace Owens of the Daily Wire. And mostly he, demanded the release of this manifesto from the shooting which took place at the school, Christian school, several of months ago, at the hands of the transgender individual, the girl whose name I will not say, at least not right now. Yeah, we were told at the time that the manifesto would be released, and then later on, came to find out it was going to be released after all. So people are calling for it to be released, as was Vivek Ramaswamy, very, very vocally. And, you know, I had this other article pulled up that I saw around the same time, and it made me second guess how I felt about whether or not the manifesto should be released. It is kind of traditional for it to be released, but I read that the families of the victims had requested that it not be released. Actually, I believe I read that the manifesto was essentially turned over to the school, to the victims' families, the families of the victims, and that they decided. And if that's true, then I don't know if it's really in the hands of the governor. Maybe he wanted to release it, but because of that conflict of interest and people close to the issue saying they didn't want it to be, maybe it was just kind of one of those hands tied behind my back type of thing. I don't know. But if that's true, then I'm not so sure I would get behind all of the near condemnation of the governor of Tennessee and everybody else who had previously said that the manifesto would be released. A completely different topic, I know, but it's another one of those things that sometimes makes me wonder if Vivek Ramaswamy is just trying to jump on hot topics to try to make more of a name for himself. Yeah, again, he kind of presents himself as a revolutionary and this very passionate individual who's all about truth and love and bringing people together. He says a lot of times, I don't really care if you're a Republican or Democrat. I don't really care about all the labels. Just the fundamental beliefs, patriotism, family, faith, all those things, and a bag of chips. So I don't know if he's just trying to win votes for one reason or another. I don't know why he would want to be the president unless he either has a good intention or a bad intention. But hey, that's kind of a given. Yeah. As for some of the other claims that people make about him, about how he's a George Soros puppet, I'm not buying that. People say he is a World Economic Forum puppet. I'm not buying that. That's nonsense. He shot that down easily. I've had arguments with people over claims such as those, and I'll defend him wherever I feel necessary. And like I said multiple times already, I'm actually a bit of a fan of the man. I just don't know if he's presidential material or not. So I'm just kind of watching and waiting to see what happens. I want to hear more from him, want to see more from him. I hope he's authentic. I don't want him to fail because of some allegiance to some other candidate. No, I want them all to be honorable people. And maybe it seems like I'm getting caught up in the petty, but we have news articles about these things for a reason. So, yeah. Was he a hypocrite in regards to his Juneteenth statements? Or anything else that I mentioned along the way? And if you think about it, if this is all there is to his hypocrisy, or potential hypocrisy, it's not all that much. So I think he's doing all right. I hope he continues to fight the good fight, assuming that's his motive. But that's all I've got for you for now. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep in touch. Keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.